UPod Street is an official affiliate of Birdland Sports. Visit birdlandsports.com/UPodStreet, and 10% of your order will go directly to supporting the pod. Use code UPodStreet at checkout, and you'll get 10% taken off your order. Now sit back, relax, and keep that beer cold, because it's on to UPod Street. What is up, Birdland? I am some guy that's in love with a 6'8" Dominican man named Felix Bautista, Jimmy Horn. And joining me, as always, is the brunette Thor himself, who I just made laugh, probably the hardest I've ever made laugh on the show, Jack Bain. Jack, how are you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. How are you?
Yeah. Oh, I'm doing fantastic after this weekend, let me tell you. I am feeling something about this team right now. Every time I start to doubt them, they prove me wrong, and I never have loved being proved wrong more.
Hell yeah. Did you see Oppenheimer or Barbie over the weekend?
I did not do the Barbenheimer.
No?
I did see a lot of people posting on the social medias that they were doing the Barbenheimer. Which I thought was funny because, like, of course, all those memes came out, right? And I was like, well, those are memes. Like, no one's actually going to do it, right? And then I saw people posting that they did it. I heard Oppenheimer's long. I heard it's like a 3-hour long movie.
Yeah. It's like kind of like a Marvel movie type runtime. Like I'm very against seeing movies during the day.
Yeah,
Like I feel like I need to like have the sun down to go see a movie.
that's fair.
I feel like I'm wasting a day. So like spending 6 hours in a movie theater just does not sound enjoyable. I don't care how good the movie is. Like, no way.
So did you see either of them?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
No, I feel like that's just like the biggest news not in base. Like, that's not baseball right now,
I mean, it's a bombshell.
Oh man.
I'm just on a roll. I'm just on a roll to start this show.
You get it, man. That being said, I'm gonna talk a little bit about what's going on around the MLB. Some trade rumblings starting to come around. I feel like, I mean, obviously we'll talk about this during the episode, but I feel like the first bigger trade of the year was the Orioles dealing Easton Lucas for Shintaro Fujinami. Yeah, I mean, we'll save that for later and talk about it then. Scott Rowland and Fred McGriff were inducted into the Hall of Fame today. Good for those two. Fred McGriff has been frequent flyer on my immaculate grids recently.
Oh, has he?
Yeah.
He was kind of all over the place, wasn't he? Didn't he spend time with like 3 or 4 different teams?
I mean, like, he's just come up a lot because there's been a lot of Braves and Rays grids recently, I feel like. So, he's been really, really plugging in there a lot for me. But yeah, so just like taking a quick glance at the standings. Looking pretty good if you reside from the city of Baltimore. Orioles are now atop the AL East by 2 full games.
It's first wild, man. We're gonna get into this later. I want you to get through this, so we're not going to spend a lot of time on it right now. We'll get into it later about what it's like to be on the top right now. But wasn't it like this time last week that we were down a game, right?
Yeah,
I think so. We were down a game this time last week, and it's so wild because the way the Rays have played all season up to this point, one game behind them felt like 1,000 miles behind them. And now just not only caught them, but then surpassed them. It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say that we're definitely catching the Rays at a good time. They've been struggling heavily as of late, and as you can see that in the standings, they're now 2 games out instead of like 6 games out or something, whatever it was at the All-Star break.
Right.
So yeah, we'll get into it. But Toronto Blue Jays in third place, followed by the Yankees and the Red Sox. Everybody in the AL East won today, except for the Rays, and then the Red Sox are finishing up their game on Sunday Night Baseball against the Mets right now.
How's that for some prime time?
Yeah, I mean, like you started the season right. It's probably a good thought to have them on prime time.
I don't know that the Red Sox ever were a good thought to have on prime time. I mean, don't get me wrong. The Red Sox obviously have a winning record, so they're not a bad team.
They're 2.5
But
games out of a wild card spot.
yeah, but I don't think, other than like ESPN, I guess, I don't think a lot of people expected the Red Sox to do much this year. Like even Red Sox fans didn't expect the Red Sox to do much this year.
Yeah, no doubt. And I mean, that was before, like, we kind of saw how the new schedules would play out. And I feel like the reason that they're doing so well is because of these new schedules. They don't have to play the AL East nearly as much. And I mean, if they did, you're facing 2 60-game winners right now. The Blue Jays and Yankees are nothing to balk at either. So, yeah. Over in the AL Central, the Minnesota Twins have kind of gained some ground on the Guardians since last week. They're 3 games up. They're winners of 3 in a row after a weekend sweep. Guardians, 1 game under 500. They're trying to bring it back. We'll see what they do at the deadline. Need some bats. It's the bottom line for those Guardians. Detroit Tigers, 3rd place. White Sox, 4th place. Royals, 5th place. Royals still not at 30 games yet in the win column. It just won't do. We'll see what
the Yankees, to get going, just needed to play a team that hadn't won 30 games yet.
Yeah. They also lost 5 in a row. We'll see what the White Sox do at the deadline. They have a lot of different pieces, especially in the arm department. They have Giolito, Lynn, and Cease. It's been said that they probably won't move Cease, but I think if they knew what was good for him, they would.
I think the White Sox, like you said, you've kind of seen like varying reports on them. On one hand, they're saying like, oh yeah, we're not going to move Dylan Cease. On the other hand, you see reports where they're just going to blow it up and everyone's going to get traded. And I feel like where the White Sox are right now, like they kind of have to. Like they've got nothing in the farm system.
No.
They've got nothing on the field. I mean, they're kind of right where like the 2018 Orioles were, which was like, all right, you tried it one more time with all these same guys, and it failed. Now it's time to blow it up and start from scratch.
Yeah, that's actually a really good comparison. Honestly, I think that the White Sox farm is kind of worse than the Orioles were at this point in their dynasty. I mean, outside of Colson Montgomery and a couple of arms, the White Sox are pretty depleted on the farm. So, I mean, they would be. I'd go as far to call them foolish if they did not make some moves at the deadline here with their surplus of veteran arms. Even Tim Anderson's been talked about getting moved, even though that he's having a horrible season, and the return on him would be far less than what it would have been a couple of years ago.
I think people would trade for him just because of the name. Like honestly, like
a lot of name.
He's a guy that has had a lot of success in the past, and people will trade for him and be like, well, maybe we can fix him. Maybe we can get him back to his old self.
There's definitely a lot of name recognition there. And maybe, he's a change of scenery guy. He goes somewhere after getting traded and absolutely balls out. And I hope he does, because he's a really, really fun player to watch, plays with a lot of fire. And the talent's there. Like, he showed it. So we'll see what they do. Definitely going to be an interesting team to watch. Texas Rangers over in the AL West still atop, keeping the Astros away for right now. They've got a 3-game lead in the division. The Astros are in possession of that second wild card spot behind the Tampa Bay Rays. And then you got the LA Angels. 2 games over 500. Shohei is standing on his head currently, might I add, at the plate.
Standing on his head?
Yeah, dude, he's going crazy.
Oh, okay. I thought like literally you were saying he was doing a headstand. I was like, what is he trying to do?
No. He just hit his 36th home run.
Oh, okay. Do you know
You
how
know?
awesome it would be if Shohei Ohtani, the year after Aaron Judge,
Oh yeah,
broke?
he's on pace for it, dude.
He is.
He's
I
on
would laugh
pace.
so hard if Aaron Judge held that title for a year.
Yeah, we'll see. I kind of hope he does.
Oh, I hope he does.
Yeah, but like as far as the Angels go, man.
The problem is I feel like the Angels, because they what, swept the Yankees, and like I feel like that was enough for them to be like, oh, maybe we could do it. Like we're not going to trade Shohei. I don't know. I don't see them making it into a wild card.
Yeah, I don't know. It'd be tough because they got two teams in front of them, both being the Yankees and the Red Sox.
Yeah.
And I think that the Angels are kind of maybe a step above a tier over the Red Sox. So I feel like if we talk about the Red Sox in that light, we kind of got to talk about the Angels in a little bit of a better light. That being
I
said,
think though, so with the Angels, the likelihood that they're going to re-sign Shohei is probably pretty slim, right?
it's
Like
greater than zero, but yeah, it's
yeah,
pretty slim.
but like Shohei himself has even said like, oh, I'd kind of like to go somewhere that wins, you know.
Yeah.
And so like for me, when you look at that, we're like, okay, if you're talking about the Angels in the same light as the Red Sox right now, where it's like, okay, they're kind of battling for a wild card spot. Like they could make it in, they might not make it in. Like we'll kind of see. Like for the record, I don't think even if the Angels make it into the wild card, they're not going anywhere.
No.
And I don't expect them to make it into the wild card. Period. Why not trade Shohei Ohtani for a bunch of really good guys to spread out your talent more instead of just having it be Trout and Ohtani?
Yeah, I mean,
But
we'll see what they do, but there's only a handful of teams that can do it.
and the question is, will they do it? For instance, the Orioles is one of those teams. They're not going to do that.
As far as we know, I think
that's
another greater than zero chance. Yeah,
I would love it. I would
Angels.
buy myself an Ohtani jersey in a heartbeat. Don't get me wrong. I just don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, we'll see. Atlanta Braves, best team in baseball, 64-34. 30 games above 500. And what's crazy is that the Orioles really aren't far off of that.
Orioles are what, 20?
24. No,
24?
23.
Yeah. I'll take it.
Yeah, good stuff. Followed by the Phillies in second place of the NL East. Marlins still sliding a bit. They've dropped 8 out of their last 10.
And wasn't it eight in a row?
Was it? It might have been.
I think it was 8 in a row, starting with that Orioles series where we swept them.
Yeah. Okay. That sucks. I really hope the Marlins make the playoffs. They're taking a trip to the Trop coming up here tomorrow.
Battle of Florida.
Mets 4th place. Nats 5th place. Watched the Nats absolutely dismantle the Giants and Logan Webb yesterday. Dylan Cruz
I caught the beginning of it when they were starting to demolish him because I was just like, I had the TV on Masson still.
Yeah,
that's
exactly what I had. Yeah,
and I was just like, oh, look at that.
They had Dylan Cruz plastered all over the broadcast. I mean,
he was the only thing they showed.
Every play that happened, Dylan Cruz.
Yeah, every single one, and he had. I don't know if it was his sister next to him or his girlfriend next to him. She was like this the entire game.
Yeah,
she was just texting, just like clearly did not want to be there.
Yeah,
but was like, well, he's here, so.
Yeah, he just signed a boatload of money.
So, 9-0.
Yeah. Over in the NL Central, the Brewers are starting to pull away. Cincinnati, they're not starting to pull away, but they've played good baseball of late. Reds, however, have won 5 in a row. Both teams within a half a game apart. It's going to come down to the wire. It's going to be a good race with that young Cincinnati team and that Brewers team that I don't even know what to call that Brewers team. Really happy for Christian Yelich, regardless of what happens.
That he's getting competitive baseball again?
Yeah. No, not competitive, just that he's doing well.
Oh, yeah. Because he kind of dropped off after his MVP season.
Yeah, dude, injuries really hurt his career. But yeah, the Cubs 3 games under 500. They just swept the Cardinals. Saw on Instagram, I think it was, can't remember who posted it, but they posted how bad the umpire was in one specific inning against against the Cardinals. Like two pitches that were a couple inches outside would have walked in a run to tie the game, and he ended up. Yeah, he called 2 back-to-back strikes, and then Brendan Donovan grounded into a double play to end the inning. And the Cardinals would go on to lose by 1. Ron Kolpa was the umpire. He doesn't have a great track record of being good. So
the Cardinals are another team that are rumored to be getting ready to blow it up.
Yeah, which they should.
Because they're kind of the same boat that we just talked about with the White Sox. You got the same veteran core that you've had for a couple years of success. You tried to run it back with them. It's not working, obviously, like working really horribly, actually.
Yeah.
And I don't think they have much left in their farm system.
I think
they almost have to blow it up.
The difference between the White Sox and the Cardinals was that the White Sox were definitely a more complete team as far as pitching and position players go. Like the White Sox have like their top 3 guys top the rotation. The Cardinals had Adam Wainwright at the top of their rotation.
And that was it.
It's different. It's kind of a different animal. I will say the Cardinals have more down on the farm. They have a surplus of bats of corner outfielders and corner infielders down there. But yeah, they I would say they need to blow it up. The issue with that is that they have Goldschmidt and Arenado really long term. So again, it's like a who wants to take on those contracts sort of deal. But they definitely do have a surplus of major league ready prospects that have been in the league for a year or more. So we'll see what they do there as well.
This is what I find interesting, right? To go to another team, to go to the Cardinals of the American League, which is the Yankees, right? Team that always has success, right?
Oh, that always has. I thought you were going to say like off of
no, not as far as like record this year and stuff. No, I'm just talking about like the in the American League, the team that always has success is the Yankees. The National League, it's always the Cardinals, right? And because those teams always have success, they always have a lot of money and they can spend it on those long-term contracts, right? So here the Yankees are still above 500, but battling to not be in last in the American League East. Really playing some bad baseball as of late. Really just showing like without Aaron Judge, like they're nothing, right? Yet they're rumored to be like in the top contenders for like trading for Ohtani or being big spenders at the deadline to turn around the ship. My thing is, what are they going to do to trade? Because their team is almost entirely made up of veterans that they sign long-term to big contracts that nobody's going to want to eat because those veterans are not performing, right? And, you know, they don't have a good farm system. They don't have a ton of people coming up that you'd be like, oh, let me trade some prospects away.
They have enough to trade on the farm.
Do you think? I didn't think their prospect ranking was that good.
I do think that they have I mean their pipeline ranking isn't among the best, but they have it would be depleting their farm completely, but they do have some studs down there that could really make an impact for a team like the Angels. I mean, first couple names that come to mind are like Jason Dominguez, Peraza, and then like they have a couple arms down there too that I just don't have the name of. But I definitely do think that they could make a trade for Ohtani. What the farm looks like after that trade, I don't know. And I mean, they're going to need to throw in some major league level guys as well. Gleyber Torres.
I don't even know if they'd be able to like if they got Ohtani, they'd be trying to make a run for this year. Because I don't even know that they'd have the funds to sign him afterwards.
Can you imagine Ohtani at Yankee Stadium every game?
What's that?
Can you imagine Ohtani at Yankee Stadium every home game?
Oh, it'd be ridiculous. I mean, it's such a little league park. He'd be hitting home runs every single time he came up to bat.
Yeah.
But and don't get me wrong, it'd be electric, right? Like people would love it. Specifically, Yankee fans would love it. I would hate it. I'm just saying, like they have that Judge contract.
And Rodon and
They had
Stanton.
Rodon. Like even for the Yankees, who are the typical big spender in baseball, like I just don't know if they'd have enough money to sign Ohtani long term. So if they'd be trading for him, I think they'd be trading for him for a short term. Would that be
Yankees,
enough
though,
to turn
right?
their club around this year? I mean, maybe, but I mean, you have like 4 guys that are battling with the Mendoza line.
It's the Yankees, though, right? They probably have the money somewhere.
They do. I know they do. They just added an advertisement onto their jerseys, so that's probably to raise the funds to get Ohtani.
Yep. To round out the league over in the West, the Dodgers won 7 of 10. Atop, they're starting to kind of run away with it. D-backs lost 4 in a row. Giants lost 5 in a row. Giants got swept in Washington this weekend.
Oof, that's a low.
So Diamondbacks and Giants, identical records there. They're still in wild card spots. Yeah, it's going to be tight there at the end. Hopefully the Diamondbacks can overcome the pitching woes that they have finally ran into. Their over win total is still looking good for me, though. I'll tell you what.
There you go.
So back over here in old Baltimore.
We got a lot of Baltimore to talk about.
Things are rumbling, tumbling. All right, so my one big takeaway from this past week is that it feels real, man.
Yeah.
Everything feels really real.
It's interesting because I was thinking about this the other day. No matter how good this team does, I have this like sinking feeling of like, but the Orioles aren't as good as their record shows, right?
Yeah.
Like I think part of that is like we've talked about on the show where it's like trauma from the past 5 years, of just losing. And every single time I feel that way, they go and do something to like prove me wrong. And I love it.
We
were talking about, Jack, we were talking about before the show, like getting playoff tickets and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. Last week, we were talking about this might be one of the bigger weeks of the season. I mean, you got 3 against the Dodgers, 4 against the Rays. And, you come into the week against the Dodgers on that first game of the series, jump out to an early lead, and then Brian Baker comes on in relief and throws a bunch of fastballs in a row to Chris Taylor, and Chris Taylor takes some yard for a grand slam. This first game, could have really put the Orioles in a bad spot. Grayson Rodriguez comes up, starts this game. You want him to do well. He does okay. 5 innings, 7 hits, 4 Ks, 4 runs. He does okay, right? Like not really what you wanted. Like breaks kind of fell off there in the 6th. And then, bullpen couldn't shut it down. But, wash it right. Come back the next day.
Oh, did they come back the next day?
Next day. You and I were both in attendance. I think the highlight of that game was probably your buddy Eddie getting up there on the Jumbotron during the old hot dog race.
Yo, shout out to Eddie. He's always repping that relish shirt when I take him to games. And every single time that the hot dog race happens, he's always holding it up going, relish, relish. Never gets onto the screen. And he was front and center during the hot dog race on Tuesday night.
Yeah, I saw him flash up. I was like, oh, I know who that is. But yeah, like I said, that was really the highlight of that game. Tyler Wells' first start.
Rough.
Yeah, Tyler Wells' first. It was his first start after the break.
Mm-hmm. He hadn't pitched in 10 days.
Yeah, 2 innings. Balls were just getting hit. Everything just was staying up. Real big lack of control too. I think that was like the first thing that I noticed during his start was that he couldn't find the zone even a little bit. And his pitch count shot up real quick. Dodgers were hitting balls in the gaps. Jason Hayward took him yard. I mean, it's not a good game overall. But one, light at the end of the tunnel there was Cole Irvin. And I I was standing out by the bullpens, right? And I see him get hot. I'm like, oh boy, it's going to be one of these, huh? But he came in and he pitched really well. 4 innings, 4 hits, 2 runs, 3 walks, 4 Ks. The stat line isn't sexy, right? But it's what he needed.
He got, because he was trying to go 5 innings. They were trying to take him 5 innings, and he kind of blew up in that 5th inning. Anytime you try and get a reliever to come in and do 5 innings out of the pen, you're stretching them hard.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, obviously hindsight's 2020, but I was excited after his 4th inning pitching because he had pitched really well up to that point. And I was thinking, like, I tweeted out, like, oh my God, he's doing great. He had just that morning posted an Instagram story where he was doing all this work for the Bark shelter. So I was like, everybody needs to pet puppies before they come in and play. Like, then you'll play well. That's what Cole Irvin did. And then they brought him in for a 5th inning, and that's when the wheels kind of fell off for him. And I was like, oh, because he had such a good showing out of the pen. And I think they just extended him 1 inning too far. I think 4 innings out of a pen is all you should be thinking of doing for a reliever. And yeah, like Cole Irvin moved in from being a starter. So like you can think like, oh, maybe we can get a 5th inning out of him. I think you're getting a little greedy with that. I think 4 innings of scoreless ball out of Cole Irvin is where they should have switched, right? Because that was like more than what we could have asked for.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, yeah, I got nothing else.
Yeah. Perez, Bauman, and Perez and Bauman came in after that.
Oh,
they
Perez
both gave up a total of
miserable
3 runs. Yeah,
Perez's first appearance after coming off of the injury, and I mean, again, another guy who just couldn't find it.
He was getting hit around.
Yeah. 3 walks. Come on.
Yeah, it just was. It was one of those games where you never felt in it. No. That's the problem. You never felt like you were in it. Orioles ended up going on to lose 10-3, and now you're just hoping, like, can we not get swept?
Yeah,
like we still have that record going of not being swept in the Adley Rutschman era, right?
Yeah,
so we're just hoping not to get swept.
Anytime we go down 2-0 in a series, that's kind of what the thought moves to. It's like, dude, we haven't been swept, and now I think after the Rays series, it's 71 series in a row.
71 series in a row without being swept.
Yeah. So I think that's what's on mostly everybody's mind. And on Wednesday,
to start this one on Wednesday, you just started it going down 2-0. Top of the first, Dean Kramer gave up 2 runs, and you thought, crap. Like, here we go. Here comes the sweep. But sure enough, the Orioles get to Urias in the bottom of the first and score 4 runs. So suddenly you went from being down 2-0 in the first to being up 4-2 in the first. Great win overall for the Orioles in this one. It battled back and forth. The Dodgers never were fully out of it. The Dodgers continued to climb back up. They scored in both the 4th and the 5th. And the Orioles just battled back. The Orioles, kind of met them tit for tat every single time they tried to come back. And then, sure enough, Felix Bautista came in, secured the save, and Orioles would go on to win 8-5. Still not swept.
Yep, still not swept. Yeah, bats were good. Obviously, you want Dean to look a little bit better. But, clunker of a start, get him on the next one. Bullpen looked really good for sure. I mean, anytime you can get to your setup man and closer, you're in a good spot. Danny Coulomb, shout out Danny Coulomb, 2 1/3, 1 hit, 3 Ks. Probably the MVP of this game.
Yeah. I think the big thing was with all this, like with the Dodger series, the silver lining was that the Rays were not doing well.
Yeah.
And so, we went into Wednesday and we were down 1 game to the Rays in the AL East. And then we beat the Dodgers, and then the Rays lose.
Thanks, Texas.
So we're sitting there Wednesday night. This is what I hated, Jack. Everyone was going, we're tied for the AL East. We're tied for the lead in the AL East. By percentage points and head-to-head matchup, we were ahead of the Rays. So even though like they had it like, oh, the Rays are 0 games back, we still technically were in first.
Yeah.
So we weren't tied for the AL East. We were in first in the AL East. Got some momentum going into Tampa Bay for, like you mentioned earlier, 4-game set. And Jack, you and I talked about it on the show last week where we said, this is a must split series. You have to win at least 2 in Tampa Bay because we need that head to head. We need to keep that. Whatever we go into Tampa Bay, whatever the standings look like, we need to at least keep it there. I don't think either of us anticipated the Orioles taking 3 out of 4.
No, definitely not. Obviously glad they did, but like you said, go for the split, go from there, keep pace in the division. But I mean, they came to play, man. This series, right? This team gave me confidence that we could be a playoff team. We could be a team that makes a push like deep into October.
This felt like a playoff series.
Oh,
honestly.
No doubt.
First of all, the crowd, which shout out to every single Oriole fan who went into the Trop this weekend and turned it into Camden South. The area behind the third base dugout was just a sea of orange that was loud for every single game. I mean, it felt like you were in Baltimore, and they even said it on the broadcast. They're like, "Are we in Baltimore right now? Like, listen to this crowd."
Right.
And you saw it pumped up the Orioles players. I mean, you saw Santander after he got an RBI at one point, like he was, going into the dugout, like raising his helmet to the fans and stuff like that. Like, it was, as far as atmosphere concerned, it was a playoff atmosphere. And then the way that the games went felt like playoff games because they were so back and forth. It felt like playoff games.
MVP of the series, Gunnar Henderson. Just gonna put that out there. I mean,
every single game,
both sides of the ball too.
It was wild. Every single game, you're like, wow, that was a good play by Gunnar. Wow, that was a really good play by Gunnar. Holy crap. What is Gunnar Henderson doing? He is amazing.
Yeah. I think like just the atmosphere of it being like a playoff game, he fed off of it. He fed off of it for
absolutely.
Sure. And if that's what we can expect coming down the line here at the end of the season, I mean,
dude, he is doing well. We're going to talk about him in a little bit too, but real quick, just to go over these games in Tampa. Game 1, the Orioles, first of all, put up a 3-run inning in the 4th against Tyler Glasnow,
who looked really good way before
they have been getting to him early in the games they faced him. Last time, they put up 7 against him in like the 3rd inning, 4th inning, something like that. They didn't chase him from the game. He went on to pitch like 7 innings. But anytime you can put up 3 runs against Tyler Glasnow, that's a huge thing. Kyle Gibson looked decent. He went 6 innings. His numbers got blown up a little bit because he tried to go 7 and kind of blew up in that last inning as well. 7 hits, 3 runs, 2 walks, 8 Ks. And then the Rays tied it, right? And you kind of thought like, oh, here we go. Like the Orioles just aren't quite there yet, right? Top of the 10th, you get the ghost runner in. Shout out to Colton Cowser for a sac fly RBI. And then you're like, well, okay, we at least got 1 run in, so we can make it going to the 11th because it's almost a guarantee that ghost runner gets in if you're the home team, right? But sure enough, who comes in and pitched 2 innings, Jack? Felix Bautista.
Hell yeah.
He looked He looked so freaking good in those 2 innings.
Yeah, I mean, the whole series he looked on. Continuously is lowering that ERA. Got it under 1 after this game. So after this game, he's sitting at a 0.96. We'll say one more thing to add about this game. Yennier Cano was the one who did let up those 2 inherited runners. And Ben McDonald on the broadcast kind of breaking down his mechanics, and he said his arm slot was kind of moving down a little bit, and he really wasn't letting it fly. So a lot of his breaking stuff, in particular the sinker, was just kind of staying up. Looked more like a fastball rather than a sinker. So I know like the Yennier Cano regression's been kind of on the minds of Orioles fans recently. To be expected, you know. Hopefully, if it's mechanical in that regard, like the Orioles can catch it and fix it. I no doubt in my mind that that'll happen. So yeah, good
And Ben
win.
McDonald also said that when that happens, what typically is happening is it's he's getting tired. His he's getting a little overused, so he needs
Mm-hmm.
more rest.
Yeah,
And I mean, the Orioles have had a really good game plan up to this point of like, hey, keep it close, get to Cano, get to Bautista, and you win. But I think that is for Yanier Cano, who's never done a full season in the MLB. It is turning into a little bit of exhaustion for him, and he might need some more rest. So
yeah.
hopefully, and we'll talk about the trade deadline in a bit. Hopefully, the Orioles can trade for someone to give him a little bit of that rest.
Speaking for trades, before that game that we just recapped, the O's did make a deal for Shintaro Fujinami in exchange for Easton Lucas, AAA arm. Was having a pretty good year, but just seemed like he didn't really fit into the Orioles mold. And he was dealt for a really, really high ceiling arm, in my opinion. I know the 8.58 ERA doesn't look great, but up until or his last 16 appearances out of the bullpen, he was sporting a sub-3 ERA. Really looked good for Oakland. But it did seem like in this first game, he was nervous. He said he was nervous. Totally to be understood. I mean, he was fighting for his job out there in Oakland to stay in the MLB because I mean he's only on a 1-year deal if I'm correct.
Yeah, 1 year deal.
Yeah, so I mean he was fighting to stay in the United States, keep playing ball. First pitch he throws as an Oriole in this game gets taken yard. Obviously a little deflating, but then he buckled down and was able to strike out a guy. So I mean, he looked good outside of that one pitch, man. That's kind of how it goes for relief pitchers. Like you can throw one bad pitch in your whole outing. That's what they'll remember is that one home run you let up.
That's so we're actually on game 2 is where Fujinami came in.
Yes.
Yeah. Because in that one too, the Orioles, I mean, when he gave up that home run, the Orioles were then down 3-0. And so like yeah, he gave up a solo shot, but the Orioles bats lost that game. Like Fujinami did not lose that game for the Orioles. That was the
No,
Orioles bats because
definitely not.
they got 2 hit.
Yeah, I mean Zach Eflin looked really, really good.
He did.
Eflin went 7 innings, struck out 8 guys, only walked 1, and then gave way to a Rays bullpen that basically struck out the side in both innings.
Yeah.
14
Fun fact,
Ks.
Jack, the one thing that we like to say on the show, it's really hard to win if you don't score runs.
Yeah. Pretty good start from Bradish. Only 2 earned over 6. And then Perez looked good in this game. I think the vibage around this game was that it was pretty deflating, which it was. You know, you get shut down like that in a pretty serious way. 14 Ks, no runs. Yeah, I mean it's pretty deflating.
I think the biggest thing that was deflating about this was 10 of those 14 strikeouts were struck out looking.
Oh my God.
Get the bat off your shoulder.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it can't happen. Zach Eflin's got gross stuff. Every person in that Rays bullpen's got gross stuff. So, yeah, baseball's hard, man. Sometimes it happens.
Yeah. But when we came back from that, we had another Grayson Rodriguez start. Jack, what did you think of Grayson's second start since coming back to this team?
Thought it looked better than the first one.
Oh, yeah.
Just like the wheels just kind of fall off as soon as he gets to a certain point in an outing.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a part of that they're trying to stretch him a little bit, right? He looked a little rough in the 5th inning, but got out of it. And then when he went into the 6th inning, that's where the wheels fell off a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, it's happening. He's a young pitcher. That's gonna happen. I mean, how many times last year did Kyle Bradish have some of those same types of outings where he looked really, really good and all of a sudden the wheels fell off. It's all part of the learning curve of being a pitcher in the major leagues, I think.
Yeah.
And so like what we've seen in Grayson in the early innings is how good of a pitcher he can be. And then you'll have that one inning that reminds you like, oh yeah, this is like he's a rookie. This is his first year in the major leagues. So I'm not like worried about him. I will be interested to see how the Orioles use him going down the stretch, especially into September and October, where he's probably hitting some inning limits, but B also strategically like for some must-win games. Are you only going to put him out there for 5 innings and then bring someone else in, like bring in a Kohler in to split the game with him or something? Use him as an opener maybe instead of a starter. I think that's what's going to be really interesting because he has shown early in the game he is really good. He can give you 4 really good innings. It's the 5th and 6th inning where things can start to get a little dicey. So maybe once you start to get in those high leverage games, use him for 4 innings and then bring in Cole Irvin for another 4 innings or something like that. We'll see. I don't know. That's just I'm just thinking out loud. I'm not the manager of the Orioles, obviously. I just think it's something that they're probably looking at.
Yeah. Big takeaway from this game: Orioles bats were able to put up 5 earned against Shane McClanahan, who is pretty much the front runner for AL Cy Young right now.
Oh yeah.
And it was kind of looking rough, man, when the O's kind of gave this one away in the back end.
Yeah. Because you had Colombe, Cano, and Fujinami who combined to give up 3 runs. Fujinami, this is where I got a little worried about this trade because he walked the first 2 batters, gave up, I think, 2 runs, and then I think walked another batter, and then they brought Cano in. His command, he's got high velocity. I mean, the dude can hit 102, but it seems like his command is what's really suspect.
So you kind of have it a little backwards. Cano pitched before Fujinami.
Okay.
And then Fujinami came in to start the 7th inning. And
that's what it was. Okay.
Or no, excuse me, the 8th inning. And walked the first 2 guys, like you said. And then just kind of got hit around. Only let up the 1 hit. I know he had a wild pitch in there as well. Both of those 2 runs were charged to him. And then Perez came in and got us out of it still in a tie ball game. And then in the top half of the 9th, man, Adam Frazier leads off with a single, and then James McCann watches his life flash before his eyes, but he held his bat out and it stopped it. And laid down an immaculate bunt to move Frazier to second base. And then Ryan O'Hearn comes up and laces a single down the right field line, and the Orioles would take the lead 6-5 and would go on to win by that score.
Can we just say those names again? Frazier, McCann, O'Hearn. If I had told you in March that there's going to be a mid-season series against the Rays that's going to be the battle for the first place in the American League East, and in one of the biggest games of the series, the heroes are going to be Adam Frazier, James McCann, and Ryan O'Hearn, what would you have said to me?
Yeah, I wouldn't believe you. That's for sure.
Great win. Again, Felix Bautista was on. And then you went into today. Orioles went up early, 3-0. That also, by the way, another Gunner highlight, included a 446-foot home run that hit off of the Coca-Cola bottle out in center field.
No, it hit a catwalk, man.
Did it? I thought someone was saying it hit the Coca-Cola bottle.
Nah.
Anyways, it was an absolute shot after he had put on a defensive clinic for the whole series. By the way, the game before, did you see that play where Gunner dove and caught the ball and then threw it to first to get the guy out at first to get a double play, basically all by himself?
Yeah.
That's absurd. Yep. That's absurd. That's a Brooks Robinson-esque play right there. I'm just saying. Tyler Wells once again did not look great. Only went 4 1/3. Gave up 1 hit, which was really good, but his command wasn't good. I think he had 2 hit batters, 4 walks, did have 5 Ks, but
Yeah.
gave up 3 runs because the 1 hit was a 3-run home or 2-run home run.
Yeah, tough. Another tough outing. Again, just had no command again. Pitch count skyrocketed in the first couple innings. Yeah, I'm not worried about it. Not really worried about it at all. I think he'll figure it out. Just needs another time through the rotation. Definitely, panic button covers closed for sure. Fingers nowhere near it. Just got to get him another time through. Give him another start at home before we start panicking.
Yeah. And then sure enough, now that the Rays had tied it, who comes in and unties it for the Orioles? Ryan O'Hearn. It's a solo shot. Orioles would score again in the 7th as well to extend the lead. And then Felix Bautista, who I thought wouldn't be available after pitching 3 of the last 4 games, and one of those games included a 2-inning outing. Brandon Hyde brought him in, and Felix Bautista shut it down. Was a little bit of an iffy save, had some guys on base, but you know what? Got out of there without giving up a run. Orioles end the series being 2 games up in the AL East. They also now lead Tampa Bay in the head-to-head series. They're up 6-3 with only a 4-game series in Baltimore left between the two teams, where the Rays would have to sweep that 4-game series to get past the Orioles in the head-to-head. Jack, how big of a series win was this?
I mean, yeah, this is probably the biggest series win of the year. It doesn't really matter that the Rays are sliding in the win column. It doesn't matter what the Rays were doing, right? We won, took the series. I think we need to win one more game against the Rays to take the season series as a whole, and hold that tiebreaker over them, which is huge, huge, huge. And just to harp on it again, like this did feel like a playoff series, and it all feels real now, man. Like start planning the parade.
Yeah, it definitely made me go, because like after the Dodger series, I was like, oh man, the Orioles are not ready to play good teams. And then this brought me back. This brought me back from the abyss to go like, okay, yeah, we can play good teams.
Yeah.
And so it was absolutely huge. I don't think we can state that enough of how huge of a series win this is, especially with the new schedule format where, we're only facing them one more series. Imagine that, Jack. Like, it's July, and we only have one series left against the Rays. We only have one series left against the Yankees, too.
Yeah.
This series that
up.
we're playing the Yankees this weekend, that's the last time we see the Yankees for the year.
Yeah,
this new schedule is wild.
It's weird, but I mean, I like how it's shaken out. Like it's making for a good race in the AL East, and it's kind of balancing out a lot of the different divisions, giving the Orioles certainly a better shot. Of winning the division. Less game. I mean, we have what, one more? One more series against the Rays, and it's at home. Just got to take one.
Yeah,
come
on. In less good news, this week, Cedric Mullins went back onto the IL. After what was originally thought to be quad tightness.
Yeah.
And then they said no, it was the same groin that he had injured earlier in the year. So he's going on the 10-day IL. So then it was okay. He went from being day to day, but not expected to go on the IL, to okay, he's on the IL. And then suddenly it's, he's saying, I hope I can be back before the end of the season.
Yeah. The way that the injuries this year have been handled have been kind of weird.
Yeah.
Like he was saying like, yeah, I'm going to try and be back by the end of this week. And that was this week. Or no, it was last week. But right. He was like, I'm going to try and be back by the end of the week. And then he hits the IL. And now it's like looking towards the end of the season. Like, okay.
And what sucks about it is it's also coming at a time where Aaron Hicks is kind of coming back down to earth a little bit. Yeah. Which we all knew was going to happen at some point. He was going to keep up those numbers when he first came over. It just kind of sucks with the timing. So you're kind of left wondering, like, what are the Orioles going to do about it? Which we'll talk about in a second. Jack, is it time, by the way, to talk about Felix Bautista's Cy Young candidacy?
I mean, yeah, you have here in our notes. I mean, he's on track to have a better season than the last reliever to win it, Eric Gagne, 2003.
Do you remember? You were young then. Do you remember the Eric Gagne era?
I mean, I know, I've seen plenty of film on
Yeah.
Gagne. He had the
It was
crazy
wild
screwball.
because Eric Gagne at one point, I think it was something like he had like 70 saves in a row
Wow.
without blowing a save. And it was one of those, like, it was the highlight on ESPN every single night when he came into a game of like, oh, we got to show you Eric Gagne getting yet another save in a row. He was dominant. And just to kind of run through the numbers, so where Felix Bautista is right now was he's at a 0.92 ERA. So he's not even at 9.6 anymore, Jack. He's at 0.92 ERA.
Mm-hmm.
96 strikeouts in 49 innings pitched, which comes out to just under a 18 K to 9 ratio. 0.86 whip. He's 5-1 as far as wins and losses on the season, and he's got 28 saves. He's only given up 9 runs all year, and only 5 of those runs are earned, and only given up 19 walks. Eric Gagne in 2003 had a 1.2 ERA. So Bautista is well under the 1.2 ERA. He had 137 strikeouts. I'd say that Felix is probably on pace with that. In 82.1 innings pitched, he had a 0.692 whip, so a little better than what Felix is at right now. He was only 2-3 on the season as far as wins and losses, and he had 55 saves. I don't think that Felix is probably on pace for 55 saves, but he could get close.
Mm-hmm.
Gagne gave up 12 runs, 11 of which were earned, and had 20 walks on the season. So Felix walks a little bit more than Gagne did. I mean, I'm not saying he will win the Cy Young. I think he will get votes for the Cy Young. I think the biggest hump that he has is the fact that a reliever winning Cy Young happens so rarely.
I think the culture around a reliever winning a Cy Young is come and gone.
Yeah.
And I don't think that writers will vote for a reliever for a Cy Young anymore. But I mean, like, you pull up the numbers, and if he can keep on pace for this, like, he should at least be considered. He'll probably get votes regardless.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just think that some starter is gonna beat him out.
Yeah. It's worth mentioning though, like just comparing the stats of the last
for sure.
closer to win it, and what Felix is doing. It should give us all an appreciation of what Felix is doing right now. Speaking of honors, is it also time to re-talk about Gunnar in the Rookie of the Year discussion?
I think he's definitely back in the hunt. Really stinks that he had a slow start. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, he would be the front runner if he has been doing this for all season. I think as far as rookies in the AL go, he's probably second right now behind Yoshida. Yoshida's stat line is just much better, frankly. And, you don't really look at what a rookie brings to, like, intensity levels on a team. Like, a lot of these writers are looking at stats.
Yeah, I think it comes down to a lot of his stats. But the thing that I wish is if you look at Gunnar's play defensively, he brings so much more than the stats.
Oh, no doubt.
But unfortunately, defense just does not get appreciated as much because I think he's a better all-around player than Yoshida.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. It's tough. Like, they're both very different players, but also, like, very similar players in the same way that they're really good bat to ball guys. Obviously, Gunnar has way more power than Yoshida does. But Yoshida's on base all the time. He's getting hits. He's getting singles. Defensively, Gunnar's better for sure, and he's shown that for this past week.
He was a human highlight reel this past week.
Yeah, it's just weird with some of these guys that come over from Japan because, I mean, Yoshida is a full 6-7 years older than Gunnar.
I was gonna say he's like 30 years old.
Yeah, dude, it's just kind of weird with some of this stuff. But that's just the way it is, and Gunner's gonna have to keep doing what he's doing if he wants to, have a shot at it. And I definitely still think he's got a shot at it. He's not, by any means out for sure. So we're gonna see how it shakes out for sure.
So we are right now, Jack, a week and 2 days away from the trade deadline. We had one trade earlier this week. You and I kind of are on the same page on as far as the Fujinama trade is, where he's got a real or Fujinami, excuse me, trade is where he's got a really high ceiling. And I think he just needs to calm down a little bit. I think he just needs to work with this Orioles staff a little bit. It's really hard, especially when you bring a guy in who doesn't speak English, to right when you trade for him, be able to sit down and have those discussions of like, okay, and what do you feel comfortable throwing when it's a high leverage situation? Where do you like the ball to be placed? Like, those are the conversations that are going to happen with him. And he came in like first day he was with the club, he got thrown into the mix.
Right.
So I think there's a lot of that. And you mentioned he said it himself. He's a little nervous because there's a lot more people watching these games than we're watching in Oakland. That made me a little nervous, where I was like, oh crap, this guy's a little like not ready for the bright lights, maybe. We'll see. I think the staff is going to work with him because, like I said, the dude can hit 102.
He throws fuzz.
Yeah. His splitter is insane.
Yeah, 94-mile-an-hour splits.
Like, he's got really good stuff. And I think it just takes the Orioles pitching staff that has shown they can take guys like Yanir Cano and turn them into something.
Right.
To work with him, and he could be a really good guy down the stretch. I think we just have to kind of get through a week or two of that sort of learning curve of the staff and the catchers learning him.
Right.
To get to that point where it's like, okay, now we're going to start to turn it around for him, and he's going to look really good for us, because he was looking really good out of the A's bullpen the last like month and a half.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, whenever you get a guy that's got 101, 102 potential with wipeout off-speed stuff, there's professionals in Oakland over there on the coaching staff, but I don't think that they're really on the same pedigree as what the Orioles have been able to do in the last few years. So you take a guy with that kind of peripheral stuff, he could really turn into be one of our more relied upon guys. I know his first two appearances weren't spectacular over here, but definitely a ton of potential.
But with that said, with the time we have left until the trade deadline, Buster Olney reported today. Boo Buster Olney, by the way. He reported today that the other execs in baseball are saying that the Orioles are, quote, measured buyers, and that they're looking to make additions but no major moves. I think this is kind of where we probably expected the Orioles to be. They weren't going to go out and get an Ohtani or anything like that, but they are looking for some probably lesser known pieces to help them improve. So, Jack, I want to play a game with you, okay?
Let's do it.
This is called Buy, Sell, or Leave Alone. And I'm going to name an area of the team, and you're telling me if you would, at the trade deadline, buy for these positions, if you would sell what we have in these positions, or if you're going to just leave it alone. All right?
Yeah.
So the first is the outfield.
Leave it alone. Or sell Aaron Hicks. I don't know, man. It's tough. Like, you think about like how good the team's doing, like the first thing you think isn't sell. I think if the price is right on Aaron Hicks and it makes sense, go for it. But I think it's doing fine as is.
No, I agree with that. I'm gonna leave the outfield alone as well. And I think the Orioles are gonna improve in house, because with Cedric Mullins out for who knows how long, come September call-ups, who's knocking at that door, Jack, but Heston Kjerstad. I could see Heston Kjerstad being a September call-up as we expand the roster, right?
Yeah, I don't think that there's another answer. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe some depth guys, but other than that, it's like
We
who
don't need to
else?
buy. I don't see anyone being sold from the outfield, but we're going to add to it internally. So
Yeah.
leave it alone. The infield. Buy, sell, or leave alone.
I mean, Joey Ortiz, if he's still around, will be an addition from in-house.
But what if you sold Joey Ortiz?
Leave it alone, I
You're going to
guess.
leave it alone.
All right. So
With all the infielders that we have, you're leaving the
yeah.
infield alone. You're not going to sell Urias. You're not going to sell Joey Ortiz.
I would love to sell Urias.
He
I
could be
think I
part of
feel
a
like
trade package.
I feel like I'm thinking too logically about it. I feel like I'm thinking like from an Orioles lens rather than my lens.
That's
Right?
fair. I'm saying because for me, it's not necessarily that you're selling because you're giving up on the infield, right? It's do you have the pieces to move to sell at those positions? The Orioles have so many infielders that someone's going to have to be sold.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe it's Taron
Yeah.
Bobber gets sold. Maybe it's
Oh,
Joey
yeah.
Ortiz gets sold. Maybe it's Ramon Urias gets sold. There are so many guys on this infield. Maybe it's Ryan Mountcastle. I don't know. There's so many guys on the infield right now that could be sold. Someone has to be sold almost, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, it's weird because, Adam Frazier's overperforming. He's batting 236, expected batting average of 284. So, like the ceiling's higher,
Yeah.
I think, for Adam Frazier. He's got a good
He's
glove.
already had his career high in home runs.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just looking at, numbers, Ramon Urias has been getting luckier this year than anticipated. He's below league average in a ton of categories. I think if you could upgrade, even a slight upgrade there. I mean, look, the team's 23 games over. A slight upgrade in any one of these spots would mean, it would produce dividends for this team.
Yeah. So are you selling? Are you selling guys from the infield? Or are you leaving alone?
Sell one.
Okay. So a small sell.
Yeah, small sell.
Okay.
If the return's good.
Okay.
If the return's good.
I feel like the next two I know your answer, but so the rotation. Buy, sell, or leave alone.
Buy.
Yeah. No, I think we gotta buy. I think the rotation would be a great thing to buy for because I think you're kind of getting a 2-for-1 with the rotation because you can add someone to the rotation and then take someone that's been in the rotation and put them in the bullpen to help improve the bullpen. So it's kind of like a 2-for-1 if you get a rotation piece. And then finally the bullpen. Buy, sell, or leave alone.
One more buy.
Yeah, I'm with you there too. I would be more comfortable with one more. So Fujinami was an addition to the bullpen, and I think he could be good. But I want one more addition that is a guy that we already know is good, right? I would feel a lot more comfortable with one more arm that's just like, okay, this isn't an experiment. This is a guy that's good.
Yeah, I don't know if Fujinami was all the way an experiment because he was doing good in Oakland.
Right.
Not as much of an experiment as, a prospect would be. But yeah, one more solid guy who has proved it all year, who you can count on without worrying even a little bit. I agree. One more buy.
Well, it's going to be really interesting this next week with the trade deadline coming up. We got a crazy trade deadline last year. Obviously, the Orioles were sellers last year. You know, the
Yeah.
big trades of Jorge Lopez and Trey Mancini. I'm really interested in what the Orioles are going to do come this trade deadline. I think there's a lot of guys they could sell. I think there's a lot of guys that they could buy. You know, reports coming out they're not going to do anything. Reports coming out they're going to do some things. Reports are coming out that they're going to trade for Ohtani. I mean, who knows?
Yeah. Got to do a little bit more.
You have to do a little bit. If the Orioles don't make any moves between now and the trade deadline, I would say that's a failed trade deadline for the Orioles. But I think it would also show the hand of Mike Elias. You know, you and I have talked about it before too. I don't think Mike Elias is looking at this year as being a World Series year. I think he's looking at next year being a World Series year. But I would prefer him think of this year because we're right there.
I know he doesn't want to push the chips in yet, but damn.
Yeah.
Damn.
With that being said, besides the trade deadline this week, we have games that are happening, obviously. So tomorrow, the Orioles head to Philly for a 3-game set. Shout out Joe, who said that we're going to take 3 from Philly. Let's keep those good vibes rolling, Joe. I hope you're right about that. We finally get an off day, Jack, on Thursday. Our first off day since the All-Star break. And then
which isn't crazy. It's just not what it's been all year.
Yeah. Well, that's why, you know, Tampa Bay's played 4 more games than us.
Right.
Is we had so many off days in June.
Right.
But then we have a 3-game homestand, not just home series. It's a 3-game homestand against the Yankees, which is including Sunday night. They flexed the game from being a Sunday day game. It's going to be, for the first time since I think 2019, the Orioles are going to be on Sunday night baseball.
Which means we will also be flexing our podcast schedule.
Yes. So Jack and I made the decision we are not going to be recording on Sunday next week because he and I are both going to be in attendance for Sunday night baseball. First primetime game for the Orioles in a long time. Jack, you were just buying your tickets right before the podcast, and you were saying that the whole lower section of the stadium sold out, right?
Yeah, it's thin. Not quite sold out, but it's like 1 or 2 seats a section. Yeah. It's pretty thin.
I'm hoping for a big crowd. I'm hoping for a loud crowd. I'm hoping that this is, Jack, do you remember in 2012 when the Orioles were first getting good again? There was that game in September where they did the unveiling of Cal Ripken's Hall of Fame statue. And the Orioles hit 6 home runs in that game. Like, the Yankees came back, and then Adam Jones hit a home run to put them up again, and then Chris Davis hit a home run. Like, that was one of the most electric games I've ever watched.
Yeah, I wish I could say more on it, but honestly, I was probably more worried about starting middle school later that year.
I was in college. That to this day was like one of the most electric games I ever watched, and it was the first time I had really watched an Orioles-Yankees game where the Orioles fans far outnumbered the Yankee fans. And I am hoping for the same electric atmosphere this Sunday. So if you are on the fence, if you're going like, oh man, like I kind of want to go to that Sunday night game, I don't know if I should go, you know, that's what go buy some cheap seats, man. Buy some cheap seats.
I just bought the cheap seats at $30 a piece.
Yeah,
wouldn't call them cheap seats.
Yeah, they're not super cheap, but just go, man. Like, help us get a great atmosphere. Like, give this team the celebration it deserves for being where it is right now. And let's outnumber the Yankee fans. That's my biggest thing. I don't want to be on primetime television. I don't want to hearing on the ESPN broadcast all the "Let's Go Yankee" chants. Okay, let's make it a loud Orioles atmosphere.
And you get a free pack of baseball cards given away. It's International Trading Card Day.
Hey, Jack, you know who else is getting a free pack of baseball cards?
Wow, who?
Kevin Stauffer, a.k.a. at Staufy21.
Let's go.
So as a reminder, or if you're a first-time listener, news for you, Every week when we tweet out our recording, if you like and retweet that tweet and you're a follower of UPod Street on Twitter, you will automatically be entered for a chance to win a free pack of baseball cards. And actually, Jack, I think you're doing a couple packs in there, right? Because they're small packs. But free
Oh
couple packs
yeah.
of baseball cards. And so shout out to Kevin for winning this week. And you guys should enter for next week.
An update on the previous winners. The packs that I put in the mail were returned for not enough postage. I did not weigh them properly, and it was a little heavier than I thought, so I did not put enough stamps on. Sorry. Deepest sorries about the delay in your giveaway win, but they will for sure be there by the end of the week this week.
All right, so delay because Jack doesn't know how to do postage. Got it.
All right.
Any other news for the good of the order, Jack?
No. Hope everybody has a good week coming up. If you're traveling to Philly, safe travels.
I think there's a lot of Orioles fans going to Philly. I saw a lot of groups that are getting like buses together and going up to Philly for this series and stuff. So
that's awesome.
Enjoy, guys. Be loud. Represent.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Have a good week, everybody.
All right. Let's go, O's. You've been listening to UPod Street, an Orioles podcast by fans for fans. UPod Street is an official Birdland Sports affiliate. Directly support the pod by purchasing UPod Street or other Orioles merchandise using the link birdlandsports.com/UPod Street. Get 10% off your order when you use the code UPod Street. Follow us on Twitter at UPod Street and at JackBain20. UPod Street is also on Facebook and YouTube, and you can listen to the show on all major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Spotify. On whatever platform you listen, please subscribe, rate the pod, and leave a review. If you leave a review, we may even read it on the show. We'll see you next week, and of course, let's go O's.